Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the 2025 film Weapons as suggested by these lovely subscribers here. So 2 years ago, one Wednesday morning at Maybrook Elementary, a fairly new teacher by the name of Justine Gandy walks into her classroom and all her kids are missing. They've gone missing except for one little boy by the name of Alex Lilly. And I know what you're thinking. What makes Alex Lilly so fucking special? The night before at 2:17 a.m. exactly, all 17 students ran out of their house. And the detectives that were assigned to the case know that the children left at 2:17 a.m. exactly because, you know, these days everybody has a Ring camera, everybody has an alarm. So you can see the kids in some of the Ring camera footage running out of their house. And the way that they're running is very specific. They have their arms in a V formation. It looks like how I run to Daphne after a long day. Given that Justine's class was the only class that had missing children and Alex Lilly was the only boy that didn't go missing, they were interviewed and questioned by the authorities, but both of them claimed that they have no idea what happened to the kids, leaving the authorities and the whole town and us with no answers. 1 month after the children left their homes, they decided to reopen Maybrook Elementary. The night before the school is set to reopen, Maybrook hosts kind of like something like a town hall where the staff and parents can all get together and they have counselors there to kind of help them process their feelings. So let me tell you now, the way that the movie progresses and the mystery behind the missing kids is kind of pieced together, it's going to be through different perspectives of different characters. And the first character perspective that we get to see is that of Justine Gandy. Justine is attending the town hall with the other staff and parents. There's a counselor up on the podium basically trying to guide everybody through their feelings. And there's a particular parent by the name of Archer Graff who is especially pissed. So Archer's son Matthew was one of the 17 kids that went missing in Justine's classroom. And he basically takes over the whole town hall and is accusing Justine of knowing where the children went. And I don't blame him because it's like only her class. It's giving very much suspicious. But instead of like having what I think would have been a very productive conversation with Miss Gandy, Miss Justine Gandy that is, I feel like they could have had a conversation like, okay, what do you think happened from your perspective? What's going on? But instead he said, this is a witch hunt and I spy with my little eye a witch named Gandy. Archer has now hyped up the whole room. All of the parents are wanting to hear from Justine and they're wanting answers from her. So she goes up to the podium and is trying and failing at reassuring the parents that she is just as much in the dark as they are. Baby girl is not up there for 2 minutes before she's interrupted. They calling her all sorts of bitches and liars. Principal Marcus jumps in and is trying to settle everyone down. But the town hall ends with Marcus and the counselor escorting Justine to her car because there is a mob of angry parents forming behind her, chasing her down, trying to get answers. And I'm like, damn, I know everybody's hurting and grieving and they're confused and they have no answers. And it seems easy to point the finger at Justine. But I'm like, what proof do we have that she did this? The counselor is cautioning Justine to go straight home. And Justine said, by straight home, you mean the liquor store? Justine goes to the liquor store. She grabs a couple of bottles and she's like receiving a threatening phone call. And like, not to victim blame, but girl, why are we answering unknown numbers? I could have told you that wasn't going to end well. So Justine gets her alcohol and she's walking back to her car and you can tell she's very much on edge. She notices a truck in the neighboring parking lot. Even when she gets home, she's like paranoid. There's like people just walking on the sidewalk and she seems very cautious of them. But nonetheless, Justine makes it inside and it's a baddie shot o'clock. She's making herself an alcoholic beverage when she hears the doorbell ring. Justine is like calling out to the door. She's like, hello, who's there? And I'm like, maybe don't do that. If I'm not expecting a guest and somebody is coming over unannounced, there's no fucking way I'm answering the door. And she's been receiving threatening phone calls. Like in some instances, it's good to make yourself known. Like, hey, somebody's in here in case somebody's trying to rob your ass. Otherwise, it's like, just look out the peephole, see if it's somebody you know, and then go from there. Justine looks out the peephole, she looks out the window, and there's nobody there. But then Justine hears a banging at the door. So she grabs what I can only assume to be a can of mace, goes outside, like far the fuck outside, leaving her door ajar, which is very frustrating for me. The only time I feel like you should be leaving your door open like that is if you're physically standing in the door frame because somebody could have easily creeped in behind her. But when Justine goes outside, there's nobody there, but it seems that somebody has vandalized her car and they wrote witch in red paint on the side of her car. Which of all the things to be written on the side of her car, you know what I mean? Not too bad. Vandalism is vandalism, but at least it wasn't like anything super crazy. The next morning, Justine tries to clean the paint off, but it is not working. She then goes to Maybrook Elementary to speak with Marcus, and Marcus is telling her not to come back to work, and just based off of the parents' reaction from the town hall the night before, he just feels like she needs to be distant from the campus and from the children. Justine, of course, is looking for answers, because I'm sure she wants to clear her name, so she's asking if it's possible for her to be able to speak to Alex Lilly, you know, the only other child that didn't go missing. And And Marcus is against this, reasonably so, I think, because he was wanting Alex to get on a regular schedule, and he feels that he's already been traumatized enough with the press and with the detective searching his home. So Marcus isn't wanting to disturb Alex. Marcus points out that Justine has a history of overstepping. The things that he's referring to when he says that Justine is overstepping is like actually kind of fucking crazy. There was a student of hers that was crying, so she hugged the child. And there was another incident where a student missed the bus and she gave them a ride home. Ideally, if I were to have a child and I wasn't there to comfort my child and there was a genuine, responsible adult that could comfort my child, I would like that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind that at all. You know, it takes a fucking village. But these days, you don't know who the fuck's living in the village. And so for Justine to be doing these things, it's deemed inappropriate. So Justine leaves the campus and she's very clearly impacted by everything that's going on. She's in her car, she's crying. And I imagine that is a lot to process, and to feel that everybody hates you and that everybody thinks that you stole their kids. I'd like, bitch, let's be fucking real. I'm paid to hang out with your kids, bitch. Okay? I'm not hanging out with them for free on my free time. Let's be for real. 17 of them too at that? No, thank you. Justine goes to the police station to make a report on the vandalism, to also report that she's been receiving threatening phone calls. And as she's doing so, from across the lot, she sees a little friend of hers, Paul. So later that night, Justine meets Paul at a bar. And Justine is on her demon time. She's giving Paul fuck me eyes. She's trying to encourage him to drink with her. But the conversation kind of gets a little tense whenever they start talking about what Justine has been going through. And Paul seems to be concerned that she's been drinking. And Paul tells her not everybody is thinking about her in a time like this, and that she's being paranoid and her drinking is not helping. And I believe that what he's saying is right and wrong at the same time, because drinking is not going to help her situation at all. But I don't blame her for feeling like everybody fucking hates her, especially after that town hall shit when they all ran after her. Then the conversation kind of shifts a little bit. Justine is back giving Paul fuck me eyes, and she asks him, does Donna know that you're here right now? I said, now wait a minute, Justine. Who the fuck is Donna? Please tell me that Paul does not have a girl already. What are we doing right now? Whoever Donna is, Paul assures her that him and Donna are, quote, not happening right now. So fast forward, it seems that Paul ends up drinking and he ends up spending the night at Justine's. The next morning, Justine drops Paul off at his car, which he seems to have left at the bar. At some point during their transit, Justine asks about the investigation, and it seems that Justine does not trust that law enforcement is doing everything that they can to find the missing children. And so Justine feels the need to put the investigation into her own hands, and she follows Alex Lilly home. We see that from the bus, Alex walks up to his home, the door is open, and he kind of just like, disappears inside. So Justine goes up to the house. She goes up to the door. She knocks. There's no answer. And she notices that the windows of the house are covered in newspaper. Justine goes into the backyard, which I'm like, damn, like I want answers too, girl, but not that fucking bad. That is trespassing. I don't like that. So Justine is in the backyard. There's newspapers covering the windows, and there's a little gap in one of the newspapers. She peeks inside. It's dark as fuck in there. It's creepy as fuck in there. There's a ton of empty soup cans, and she's looking around and she sees Mr. and Mrs. Lilly sitting on the couch, and they're kind of just like staring blankly. They do look a little roughed up, but they don't seem to have noticed Justine. So Justine gets the fuck out of there and immediately calls Marcus. And Marcus, of course, is being dismissive, and he's upset that she went to the Lilly's home. So Justine goes to the liquor store to get another bottle, noticing a trend here. We don't judge here. I like a good drink myself, but damn, girl, you finished those 2 bottles of vodka in a day? And just as Justine is walking into the liquor store, we see a woman come in behind her. The woman makes a beeline towards Justine and like kind of pushes her down to the ground. And I said, oh shit, here we go. We got a disgruntled parent. And then the woman starts yelling at Justine, and she's like, did you fuck my man? I said, oh fuck, it's Donna. And then here goes Justine talking about he said y'all weren't together. We didn't fuck. I said, girl, which I feel like that wouldn't have bothered Justine either way, because notice how she asked Paul, does Donna know you're here, whilst giving him fuck me eyes, and not asking, hey, are you and Donna still together, whilst giving him fuck me eyes. So it seems like she was just concerned about Donna's knowledge of them hanging out, and not so much so if they were together. So Donna is calling Justine a liar, and she's like, he was trying to be nice to you and you got him drunk, and she's like dousing Justine in alcohol. And I said, hold up there, Big D. I said, hold up there, Donna. Because I feel like she's giving Paul too much credit. Because Paul, before he even had a drink, before he even had an alcoholic beverage, he said that him and Donna weren't happening right now. I'm not saying the drinks that he eventually did have didn't aid into whatever the fuck went down between him and Justine that night, but I do feel like he was already planning on being on some bullshit, okay, before the alcohol even got to him. So that's all I'm saying. And normally I'm like, be mad at the person that cheated on you, not the person that they cheated on you with. But in this instance, and because we know Justine personally, I feel like she needed a wake-up call. Because I'm like, girl, we can't be out here fucking other people's men and getting drunk every night, okay? I need her to lock in and do better. There are bigger things going on right now. So later that night, Justine is in bed and she's having a nightmare, it seems. And she's at Maybrook Elementary. She walks into her classroom and her students are there and they're sitting with their faces down on their desk. It looks creepy as fuck. Then Alex lifts his head up and it's creepy as fuck. And so she wakes up and she hears a noise coming from outside of her bedroom. The way Justine has her bedroom set up is enough to give me nightmares. Like, having your bed facing a door is one thing, but sleeping with that door open, like, you're not afraid you're gonna see somebody standing there when you wake up. Justine lifts up. She's trying to see if there's anything going on in the next room. She lays back down and there is a woman on her ceiling. And just as fast as the woman appears, she disappears. So the next day, Alex is walking home. And so Justine kind of stops him before he's able to get to the house. And she's trying to talk to him. And Alex wants no parts of it. He's like, leave me alone. Stop following me. And then he runs inside of his house. Justine knocks on the door, but there's no answer. So Justine is like, okay, bet. I'm gonna wait in my car for somebody to come out. And then I'm gonna have a conversation with them. So while Justine is waiting for somebody to come out, she makes herself a drink of the alcoholic variety. I said, oh shit, she drinks. So then night falls. Justine has fallen asleep, probably drunk, probably turned as fuck. And finally, we see somebody come out of the Lilly's home. And it seems to be Alex's mother, who is walking like a toddler. Here comes Tommy fucking Pickles wielding a pair of shears, walking towards Justine's car. And I'm like, oh my God, Justine, please wake the fuck up. Justine does not wake up. I said, okay, at least she's in her car and at least she has the door locked. Wrong. Alex's mother opens the door from the back seat. Justine still doesn't wake up and cuts a strand of Justine's hair. And I said, Justine is actually really gonna piss me off right now, because it's like, damn, like, if you're gonna do a stakeout and fall asleep, at least make sure you lock yourself in your car. So then we get a new character perspective, and it is that of Archer Graff. If you don't remember Archer, that was the one who was initiating the witch hunt of Justine at the town hall. His perspective starts the same day as the town hall. We see that Archer has been sleeping in Matthew's room since he's gone missing, and we see him watching and rewatching the ring footage camera of Matthew running away from the house. And you can tell it's something that's weighing heavily on his mind. He's like fucking up at his job. He's a contractor and he's making mistakes at work. Archer goes to visit the police station to speak with the police chief, aka Ed, and seeing if there's any updates on finding Matthew. And we already know this, but Archer heavily suspects that Justine has something to do with the children missing. But the police chief is very doubtful that Justine was involved. And I feel like if Archer knew the extent of who Justine was, he wouldn't be concerned about her. Like, if there was other shit going on in the town where it's like, the liquor store is out of liquor. Who bought all the liquor? Somebody fucks my man. Maybe it was Justine. Things that are very Justine specific that she could have possibly done. But her being involved with the children going missing, it's unlikely. We briefly get Archer's POV of the town hall because we already know what went down there. And it seems that he followed Justine to the liquor store and then followed Justine home. And we can only assume he was the one that vandalized her car. He had red paint in his trunk, and we know that he feels very strongly towards Justine. So Archer goes home and it seems that he's having a nightmare. Like, he sees himself sleeping and the time just so happens to be 2:17 a.m. So he goes downstairs and he goes outside just in enough time to see Matthew running away. And it's very strange. It seems that Matthew is running away from their home and then runs back to their house. Above the house, there's a grata-ta with the time 2:17 on it. Archer follows Matthew into the house. He goes upstairs and he sees that Matthew is laying down in bed, and Matthew is there and he seems to be awake but unresponsive. And Archer is apologizing for not saying I love you, and he's begging Matthew, like, tell me where you are, where did you go? And then suddenly there's a woman there who looks pretty fucking scary, and it appears to be the same woman that was in Justine's room. So Archer wakes up, he's shook as fuck. So Archer gets up, he gets his day started. He gets a map of the town or of the neighborhood and draws a line from where Matthew ran in just the general direction that he was running towards. Shortly after, he goes to visit another parent that had a missing child. He's speaking to the mother of the child, asking if he can see their ring camera footage of their daughter, Bailey, running away. I'm assuming so he can see which direction she was running in. When Archer asks for the footage, Bailey's mother tells him no and that she's not comfortable with that. I feel like this doesn't surprise me, although I do feel like as a parent, I would want to be more collaborative, or I would want to feel productive if my child went missing. But I also, somehow I understand, like I can't say exactly why she wasn't comfortable, but I can get why. Like, so Archer is sitting in his truck and he waits for Gary, Bailey's father, to come home. Gary just so happens to be Justin Long. I seen this movie in theaters and there was an audible reaction from the audience whenever Justin made a cameo. That's how you know you're a Scream King, when people see you in a movie and go, oh shit. So Gary allows Archer to look at the video footage of Bailey running away from the house, and you can tell Bailey's mom is fucking pissed. Once Archer sees which direction Bailey was headed in, he's able to draw a line on the map and see where Matthew and Bailey's lines interject. Archer starts driving because he wants to investigate the area in which the 2 points met up, but he sees Justine Gandy pulling into the gas station, and of course, he's gonna take this opportunity to confront her. Archer approaches Justine, and Justine is already over it. He's like, you got everybody else fooled, you have the police fooled, but you don't have me fooled. And they're having like a little confrontation, and suddenly Justine notices Marcus running towards her, the same V formation that the kids are running in, except his face is covered in blood, his eyes are bulging, and he's wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. It's just a lot going on. And Marcus is charging her, almost zombie-like, very clearly with the intention to kill her. Archer kind of jumps in between them, acting as a barrier between the two, which was fucking surprising because the way that he approached Justine, I thought he was gonna join in on whatever the fuck Marcus had going on. So then we cut there, and now we're getting Paul's perspective of everything that went down on his end. For additional context, Paul's POV starts the day after the town hall and before he met up with Justine for drinks. So Paul is getting his shift started and he's on the phone with Donna, who seems to be away at a work conference. And they're on the phone and Donna is like, yeah, I'm gonna be back a little early so we can hit my ovulation window. They're trying to have a fucking child. I said, So Paul is telling Donna like, oh, sounds great. But we can visibly see that he is not excited about this. Donna is trying to encourage Paul to go to an AA meeting, and he just seems thoroughly annoyed with her. And we find out that the police chief, aka Paul's boss, is Donna's father. So Paul is headed to his patrol car and he sees Justine making the police report for the vandalism and the threatening phone calls. So we've already seen that moment from Justine's perspective and now we're seeing it from Paul's. So Paul is patrolling the town when he notices a suspicious character engaging in suspicious activity. He sees a young man who appears to be trying to break into a building, and so he ends up chasing this young man down. We'll come to know this young man as James. He's chasing him down like it's like a whole, it's giving Grand Theft Auto. So he's driving to him. He ends up chasing him down on foot, tackling him. He handcuffs James. They get back to the patrol car and Paul is preparing to conduct a search. So he puts on his little gloves and he's asking James, he's like, okay, do you have any weapons on you? Do you have any drugs on you? Do you have anything that can poke me? James says no. And just so we're clear, James is clearly not in his right mind. So Paul asks James a second time. He says, are you sure you do not have any needles or anything on you? I don't want to get poked. James says, no, it's fine. Paul starts searching James and gets poked by a needle. And so Paul decks the fuck out of James. And on a personal level, I understand this reaction because what the fuck, I asked you twice if you had anything that could poke me. And now here I am getting poked. Not cool. But on a professional level, you definitely can't be doing this. And Paul knows this because after he gets out the first aid kit, he sees that the patrol camera is plugged in. He unplugs that bitch because he knows that that was a big no-no. So Paul wakes up James and tells him like, look, I did you wrong. You did me wrong. Let's call it even. But I better not see you out here again or else we're going to have problems. Then Paul goes and runs to Donna's daddy and tells him what happened. The police chief seems annoyed but tells Paul that if James doesn't come and make a complaint within a month, then the footage will be taped over and then it'll be like it never happened. Paul's shift is coming to a close and he's stressed, pressed, and irritable when he gets a hey text from Justine. And oh my gosh, if his screensaver is not him and Donna. I feel like Justine and Paul, they both seem to have a thing with alcohol and sex, and they're both having a rough time, and I think that's why they are leaning on each other in the way that they're doing. And I'm convinced that they had to have met in AA. It seems that their careers don't align, and it seems like they both drink. Every other scene with Justine, she's hitting the bottle. From Paul's perspective, he meets Justine at the bar. They for sure hunched. They definitely had sex. Of course, we know the next morning, Justine dropped Paul off at his car. Paul goes home to find that Donna has arrived even earlier from her conference. Imagine a night of doing something you're not supposed to be doing, because we already know he wasn't supposed to be drinking, but fucking other bitches on top of that, like, that's a lot. And he hasn't even had time to come up with a lie. I'm sure he thought he was gonna go home, shower, and like by the time Donna was expected to come back, he could just be like, oh, nothing interesting happened, and left it at that. But now Donna is here, and Donna at first greets him and she's happy to see him. And then she asks Paul, she's like, okay, where have you been? And Paul has not come up with a lie or anything. Immediately, Donna knows what went down. And Paul is fake as fuck too, because he didn't want to give Justine a heads up that Donna was going to come find her and try to beat her ass. And we know this is the same day that Donna confronts Justine at the liquor store because she's wearing the same clothes. That means right after she finished with Paul's ass, she went in to go handle Justine. And I do feel bad for Donna because she was really trying to get pregnant by this man. But I think it's good that she found out the type of bullshit that he was on before she got pregnant, because now she can get out scot-free. My thing has always been, if I'm ever in a relationship with a man and have been wronged by a man, as long as our relationship didn't result in a child, that shit never fucking happened. That shit never happened. There was that time my hairline receded to the point where I was aware every time I looked in the mirror that shit did happen. But then once my edges grew back, Stephen who? Paul is at work and the police chief is kind of looking at him and I'm like, oh, I wonder if Donna told her dad what happened. Paul goes outside and sees none other than James approaching the police station. And so Paul is yelling at James, like, I told you I didn't want to see you again. He jumps in his patrol car. James runs off. Paul unplugs his patrol camera, unlocks his weapon, and is like driving, speeding, trying to get to James. So then we get James's POV. We see James outside of the liquor store the night of the town hall, but his POV and his perspective starts the day after and before his run-in with Paul. So it seems that James lives in a tent in the middle of the woods and he does drugs and he does the hard drugs and it seems that he needs more. And it's actually really sad. James is on the phone with his brother trying to scam money from him while also going door to door of different cars trying to see if any of them are unlocked. James eventually finds an unlocked car and there's a child's bag inside and there's like a child tablet and headphones, so he takes it to the pawn shop, but the owner of the pawn shop is not interested in buying whatever James is selling. And trying to find something more valuable to pawn off, James tries to break into a building, but he's stopped by a police officer. It's Paul. And so he has a whole run-in with Paul where Paul gets stuck by the needle and punches James. After his run-in with Paul, James starts wandering around. He wanders into a neighborhood and finds a house that piques his interest. It seems like it's good for breaking into. There seems to be newspapers piled up, which means nobody has been there to collect the newspapers, and it just so happens to be the home of Alex Lilly. So James breaks into the house, it's creepy as fuck, and he grabs a pillowcase from what I can only assume to be Alex's bedroom, and he goes downstairs into the living room and he's looking for things to steal, and then he notices Mr. and Mrs. Lilly sitting and staring blankly on the couch. This freaks James the fuck out, and it's like for a moment he's in his right mind because he's scared as fuck, but once he realizes that they're unresponsive, he just continues ransacking the house. And oh my gosh, up close, the Mr. and Mrs., they look tore the fuck up. They look like they have been through some shit. And this is what I mean when I say that James is not in his right mind. He hears a bang upstairs and then continues to ransack the house, which is like, if you're in the middle of robbing a house, you know, I imagine if you suspect that there's other people there, you're not gonna continue doing, you're gonna maybe like finish up and then leave right away. But he doesn't, he continues ransacking. So it seems that James is headed towards the front door. He walks past the basement where he hears whispering. So he looks in the basement, there's nothing of interest there except, oh yeah, the 17 missing kids. They're just standing there in the fucking dark. And then they turn around and look at James. James gets freaked out. He's scrambling out of the basement. He drops all of his stolen goods and suddenly Mr. and Mrs. Lilly stand up very zombie-like and start walking towards him. James gets the fuck out of there and goes straight to the pawn shop so he can get money for drugs. James is in the pawn shop and there's a flyer behind the register and it's a $50,000 reward for the missing kids. So first things first, James gets the money from the pawn shop, gets drugs, gets fucked up, and then calls the hotline to report the missing kids. And as you can imagine, he sounds out of his mind. He sounds unserious, and the person on the other line obviously isn't believing him. So then James goes to the police station, and that's when he has his second run-in with Paul, and that's when we see Paul jump in his patrol car and cut off his patrol camera. James runs. It seems that he's escaped Paul, and he's in the woods. He hears a noise, and he just kind of like locks in and starts scanning the woods, and he sees a random woman just kind of waving at him in the distance. This freaks him out enough for him to run. He runs to his tent and he just hides there, and he's trying to convince himself that the woman wasn't real. And as he's trying to convince himself that he imagined the woman, he hears somebody walking around the tent. And as somebody is entering the tent, he grabs his druggy needles and stabs the person in the face. It's Paul. He accidentally stabbed Paul in the face. And now Paul is especially pissed. And you know his hatred for James is now so personal and runs so deep. Paul grabs his service weapon, aims it at James, and the only reason that he spares James is because James is telling him that he knows where the missing kids are. So Paul puts James in the back of the patrol car and he guides him to the Lilies. Paul goes to the front door and it seems that he's speaking with somebody and it seems that he's invited in. And then night falls. James has been in the back of the police car for we don't know how long, but it's dark as fuck now. And I feel like that just gives me such an eerie feeling because he's trapped in the backseat of the car and we know that there's some weird ass shit going on in the Lilies' home. So James sees Paul coming out of the house and at first he's relieved, but Paul is definitely not himself. He's growling and he drags James into the house. And then we get another character POV and it is that of Marcus. At this point, I was like, okay, I need y'all to tell me what the fuck is going on. I can't get another character POV, but then I was like, fuck, I need to know what led Marcus to attack Justine the way that he did. So it's like, I need to know this. But at this point, I'm like, I need y'all to tell me what the fuck is going on. So Marcus's POV starts after the town hall and after Justine visited the Lilies' home. So it seems that Marcus is at the grocery store with Bae, aka Terry, when he gets a phone call from Justine. And she's basically telling him that there's something strange going on at the Lilies' home. And honestly, I'm not sure if this is a continuation of the first time that she called him or if this is another time that we didn't see from Justine's perspective. I do feel like this is after her little haircut situation though. And of course, Marcus is pissed. He's being dismissive as fuck. And as a principal, I think it's great that Marcus is advocating for the parents, but I also feel like he didn't advocate at all for Justine. And so Justine reminds Marcus that by law, if somebody raises a concern about a family or a household, that he has to report it to CPS. Marcus is not wanting to get CPS involved because he believes that Justine is being paranoid. So he agrees to have a meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Lilly at school. So the next school day rolls around and the appointment time for the Lilies has come. Mr. and Mrs. Lilly don't show up at the meeting, but Aunt Gladys does. So my first impression of Aunt Gladys, love her, okay? I was like, she seems very campy. She seems very chill. And I'll be honest, the first time that I seen the movie, I didn't process that that was her showing up in Justine and Archer's nightmares. So I was like, oh, you know, maybe there's a misunderstanding about that. Maybe she's a good time and maybe their dreams mean fucking nothing. So Gladys explains that she's Alex's aunt and his mom's older sister. And Marcus explains that because Gladys is not Alex's legal guardian, he needs to speak to his parents. Gladys explains that Alex's parents are unwell and that's why she's there to help take care of Alex. And she says that they have a touch of consumption. I said, now what the fuck does that mean? And Gladys does not explain further on what the fuck that means. It's funny because Marcus is trying to figure it out. He's like, what does that mean exactly? And she just never fucking explains it. So Marcus explains to Gladys that somebody made a formal complaint and Gladys said, who the fuck is running their mouth? I need to know. But of course, Marcus can't give her that information. So Marcus says that he can do a house visit. Otherwise, he's going to have to contact CPS. Marcus is at home with Bae. They have matching Mickey Mouse shirts. They're about to eat some hot dogs while watching a documentary on parasites when they hear the doorbell ring. Marcus goes to answer the door and it's Aunt fucking Gladys. Aunt Gladys is like very frantic. She seems out of breath and she's talking about how she missed the bus. And she asks Marcus like, can I have some water? Marcus is about to say no, but then Bae, bless his heart, is like, absolutely, come on inside. And I'm like, Terry, no. And I get it because Aunt Gladys has a fun look to her. She has like this little campy thing going on. She has her micro bangs. She seems very, you know, eccentric. So I get that. I lean in towards those type of personalities, but how the fuck does she know where y'all live? How the fuck did she get your address? Why is she here right now? As soon as Aunt Gladys walks inside the house, the vibes have changed completely. She went from being like winded and breathing really hard to like, oh, okay, like lovely home, da 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 da. Not only that, how she walks into their home would have pissed me clean the fuck off because she like walks in and sees herself to the kitchen. You know, when you walk in somebody's home for the first time, you kind of like, you know, you do the polite thing, you let them lead the way. You don't just walk in and start walking around like you run the fucking place. So like I said, Aunt Gladys leads herself into the kitchen and she's talking to Marcus and she's like, I wanted to, you know, finish our conversation regarding CPS. And Gladys starts coughing. Marcus goes to get her a glass of water. She says no. get me a bowl. And this is why on the slick I fuck with Gladys, because it's like she doesn't even bother fucking explaining. Like, it's like they all know that it was a weird thing. And she's like, yeah, I know it's weird, but it's just a quirk of mine. No big deal. Give me the bowl of fucking water. And then he gets her the bowl of fucking water. Aunt Gladys's tone kind of changes. And she goes from being like, oh, da, 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 to you didn't call CPS, right? She pulls out a branch and it's wrapped in a ribbon that she got from Marcus's office. Marcus recognizes the ribbon immediately. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And quickly, Gladys cuts her hand with the thorn on the branch. So Marcus and Terry start freaking the fuck out, obviously so, because why the fuck are you injuring yourself in my fucking kitchen right now? They're trying to get her a first aid kit, and I'm like, first of all, we need to kick this bitch out, because she definitely did that shit on purpose. And Gladys is like, no, I don't need a first aid kit, and she tells Terry, Bay, she's like, hey, like, just give me a rag for my cut, like it was an accident. As she's asking him this, she's rubbing her blood all on the thorn and ribbon. So Terry goes to get her a towel for her wound, and quickly she cuts off some of his hair. I said, oh no, no. She has a bell that she's pulled out of her back. She rings a bell. Marcus goes into a trance-like state. Like he's not there. He's not responding to Terry. Gladys grabs Terry's hair, wraps it around the branch, and breaks it. And once the branch snaps, Marcus attacks Terry, and he kills Bay. Fucking sucks. And he doesn't kill him in a way that's like, oh, whoops. He kills him in a very aggressive way that's like, if he wasn't in the mental state that he was in, he would have definitely been out himself. Like, we're talking skull smashing, skull to skull impact. Gladys is very clearly into some magic. Gladys is a witch. And I was like, oh gosh, I've been mistaken. I've been deceived, because her look suggests that she would be a hocus pocus witch. Very campy, a Halloween Town witch, very friendly, but that is not the case. Because making Marcus kill Bay is like as fucking crazy. Aunt Gladys drops the broken branch into some water, into the bowl of water that they so graciously provided her. Marcus stops attacking Terry, who has, the damage had already been done. Like, Terry was no more well before she made him stop. So then Aunt Gladys pulls out a strand of blonde hair with dark roots. And we already know who the fuck hair that is. It's Justine's. And we can only assume this was the strand of hair that Mrs. Lily cut from Justine's hair during her drunk stakeout. She wraps it around the branch, breaks it again, and then Marcus is off. He's gone. Aunt Gladys runs out of the house and she walks to her car. Like, Miss Ma'am didn't even fucking walk there. She played the fuck out of them. So Marcus is running through town, looking the way that he does, okay? So a bunch of people seen this shit. Eventually, he ends up at the gas station where he tries to attack Justine. And we know now that he is under the influence of Aunt Gladys and her magic. And like I said, Archer is doing everything he can to protect Justine from Marcus. Justine is able to make it to her car. She drives off. Marcus is running after her. Injured, Archer gets into his truck and starts going after Marcus, and then Marcus gets hit by a car. So Archer is at the hospital for his injuries, and it seems that he's speaking to an officer about everything that went on with Marcus. So when Archer leaves, he finds that Justine is waiting for him in the waiting room. And you can tell that they're looking at each other with a little bit more compassion. They're looking at each other with new eyes. I imagine Justine is like, wow, maybe he doesn't hate me because, he saved her fucking life. Archer is looking at Justine differently because everything that went down with Marcus, he's like, well, fuck, maybe there's something else going on that I don't know about, that Justine probably has no knowledge of or no involvement in. So they're outside the hospital and they're talking about Marcus, and Justine is saying that he was just fine a few days ago and that she had never seen anything like it. But then Archer is like, actually, I have seen something similar to this. So they go back to his truck. I said, oh my God, yes. And he's explaining the way that Marcus was running, arms in V formation is the exact same way that Bailey and Matthew are running in the ring camera footage whenever they ran away from home. And he's like, Marcus was weaponized to attack her. Like, he wasn't in his right mind, clearly. So Archer is showing Justine the map that he made, and they're looking in the general area of where Bailey and Matthew's paths intersect. Justine is like, oh fuck, Alex Lily lives in this house, right in the same little radius. I'm like, you see what happens when we come together to solve a problem? Everyone's always fighting all the fucking time and nothing ever gets done when there's one common issue. And I also think what's really interesting too is how Archer and Justine's proximity to each other change as their alliance changes as well. Like, you have them at the town hall and they're so far apart physically, and then now they physically have come together and they're not facing each other, but they're facing what is actually the problem, or potentially the solution to the problem. Yes, we're getting to some fucking answers. We're unraveling the mystery of the missing kids, brick by brick, character by character. And then we finally get to the man of the motherfucking hour, or the little boy of the motherfucking hour. And we finally get Alex Lilly's perspective of what's going on. Because after all, the missing kids are in his fucking house. So we get Alex Lilly's perspective, and this is before the town hall. This is before the kids even go missing. And he's in the back of Justine's class, and it seems that they're discussing parasites. We also find out that Matthew, as an Archer's father, is bullying Alex. So at the end of the school day, Alex's father picks him up from school, and he seems to be like a chill dad, okay? They seem to have a normal father-son dynamic. And Alex's father reminds him, like, hey, don't forget, your mom's Aunt Gladys is coming to live with us. She's gonna be here tonight. I know Gladys did some fucking finessing. Based on the conversation that Alex is having with his father, Gladys is estranged, not just to Alex, but to Alex's mother and his father. And then I'm like, what the fuck? So Aunt Gladys is his mom's aunt, not his mom's sister, as she told Marcus when she went to visit him in his office. And maybe she said that so she could seem less distant to Alex, so there would be less questions. But clearly Gladys is a liar, and she's finessing everybody. So the boys get home to Mrs. Lilly, and they seem like they have like a cute little family, okay? They seem very interactive. They don't seem strange at all. They just seem to be a normal little ass family. Party of 3. So nighttime rolls around, and Alex is in bed when he hears Aunt Gladys arrive. So he looks out his window, and it seems that his father is helping Gladys inside. She has very few bags and like a little miniature tree, like a little tiny tree. So the next morning, Alex goes into his parents' room and overhears them having a conversation about Aunt Gladys. Mr. is telling the missus that he does not want Gladys there, and he's saying that given her health condition that she might do better in a hospice, and that they are not equipped to take care of her in her final days. Mrs. Lilly is like, oh, but she's family. And we find out that they haven't seen or heard from Gladys in 15 years. And she didn't even go to their fucking wedding. I said, now wait a damn minute. Family, friend, if I haven't seen, spoken, written, anything, had any sort of interaction or engagement with you for 15 years, we need to reestablish a relationship before you stay in my house with my child. So Alex finds himself peeking into Gladys's room. He sees her wig detached from her head, sitting on a dresser, micro bangs and all. He sees her little tree, and as he pans the room, he makes it up to Gladys's face, and she's just awake staring at him. And of course, this freaks Alex the fuck out, and his dad is driving him to school, and Alex is asking his dad, like, okay, how long is Aunt Gladys gonna be here? It's just unfortunate because it seems like they're just waiting for her to pass, and so the dad is like, maybe a month. She looks pretty fucking sick, I don't know. So Alex is in Justine's class, and it seems like they're taking a test on telling time using analog clocks, which thank God I seen a video recently and there were adults that didn't know how to read an analog clock. And no shade if you don't know, but maybe, might be something nice for you to learn. Everything's digital now, so I can see why a lot of people don't know. But I feel like it's something that's good to know. And if you notice the last clock on the test, look at that time. Can you tell me what that time is? Can you seriously tell me what that time is? I'm kidding. But if you notice, it's 2:17, the same time the kids went missing. And at the end of the test, Matthew is bullying Alex yet again and ends up getting kicked out of the classroom by Justine. And it seems like this is Alex's normal routine. He gets dropped off at school by his dad, goes to Justine's class, gets bullied by Matthew, and gets picked up by his dad. But something is strange this day because his father doesn't pick him up for school, leaving Alex to have to walk home. Alex goes home and he sees his parents are sitting in the kitchen and they look dazed. Not confused, but definitely spaced the fuck out. They are giving very much NPC responses, like they don't seem like themselves at all. And immediately Alex can tell that something is wrong. And then here comes Aunt Gladys, and she's doing her little camp bit where she seems really friendly and really charming, and she's assuring Alex that his parents are fine. Alex said, I was born at night, not last night. What the fuck is wrong with them? He grabs a glass of water and splashes it on his dad and yells at him, and his dad barely reacts. This has pissed Gladys off, and so she sends Alex upstairs with no supper. The next morning, Alex goes downstairs. His parents don't seem to have moved from the kitchen table. Gladys is sitting there with them, and she tells Alex to sit down. She tells him, she's like, do not tell anybody that your parents are resting like they are, and do not tell anybody that I'm here. Gladys isn't convinced that Alex isn't going to say anything to anybody, so she makes him watch as she does her little ritual thing. She has a branch. She pricks her finger, rubs her blood on the branch that has his parents' hair, and breaks the branch. And as the branch snaps, they start stabbing themselves in the face. Well, maybe let me not do that. They start stabbing themselves in the face. And Alex, of course, is freaked the fuck out. He's begging them to stop, but they don't. And they don't stop until Gladys drops the branch into a bowl of water. Gladys makes Alex promise that he's not going to tell anybody about what's going on in his house. She said, I can make your parents hurt each other. And then she says, I can make them eat each other. I said, fuck, that is a proper fucking threat. When he gets back home, his parents are sitting at the kitchen table. The windows in the house are covered in newspapers. And it seems that Gladys has moved into his parents' bedroom. And so Gladys basically leaves feeding Alex's parents up to him. So he goes into the kitchen, he gets a can of soup and is like feeding them. So the next day, Alex goes to school. He goes to the grocery store to get more soup, feeds his parents. Late at night when he's in bed, he hears Gladys calling to him. He goes to Gladys and she's very clearly sick. She has her 4 little knotless braids hanging on for dear life. And Gladys is being really nice to Alex. And she's like calling him sweetie. And she's like, I'm really sick. And Alex is like, okay, if you get better, will you leave? And she says, yes. And you can help me get better by taking an object from each of your classmates at school and bringing it back to me. And Alex is like, how the fuck is that going to help? But of course, Gladys doesn't explain because she never explains shit. And poor Alex, I just know that he's desperate to get her out of the house so then he can have his parents back. And I know that was like his driving goal in carrying out this favor for her. So the next day, Alex is at school. He's in Justine's class and he's kind of looking around and he's like, what can I steal? What can I take from each of my classmates to bring back to Aunt Gladys? Being the little genius that he is, Alex waits until they're in their gym period. He sneaks back into the classroom and takes their name labels off of their cubbies. It's easy, it's quick, it's to the point. And just as he puts the labels in his backpack, Justine walks in and Justine is trying to have like a heart-to-heart with him. She's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing in here? You can talk to me. And Justine is probably thinking, oh, he's hiding from that no good Matthew when he has a whole fucking Gladys at home. And I can only assume out of fear of Gladys making good on her threat, Alex doesn't tell Justine shit. He doesn't even hesitate. He's not even like, maybe I could talk to her. He's like, no, bitch, there's nothing that we need to talk about. I'm ready to go back to gym. So Alex gets home. He drops all of the name labels in front of Gladys's door, and then he goes to bed. At 2:15 a.m., Alex starts to hear noises coming from the kitchen. He goes downstairs, and it's Aunt Gladys. And she's cooking some sort of magic together, okay? She rings her bell. They go outside, and suddenly, all the kids from Alex's class come running. And they're doing the arms V formation, and they all just pile into the house. So Alex goes to school, classroom empty as fuck, and he knows why it's empty as fuck too, but he doesn't tell anybody. It seemed when it was time for Alex to be interviewed by the detectives, Aunt Gladys spruced up Mr. Lilly. She put some makeup covering his little fork wounds, got him all cleaned up, and accompanied them during the interview and explained to the detectives that Mr. Lilly had a stroke. Obviously, I think she did that to excuse his near lack of consciousness. When it came time for the detectives to search the Lilly's home, Aunt Gladys got a strand of hair from all the kids, put it on a branch, breaks the branch, and then they all ran off and hid in the woods somewhere. Meanwhile, Alex cleaned up the house, so by the time the detectives got there, there's no kids there, the house looks clean, everything looks normal. Gladys put on her little Gladys fit, she put on a wig with her micro bangs, and they were none the wiser. At some point, the kids are back in the basement, and it seems that Alex has become a single father of 19. He has to take care of his parents and his 17 classmates, feeding them soup every day. So one day he comes home from school and he sees Paul and James standing in the house just staring blankly because clearly they are under Aunt Gladys's influence. And for context, this is after the town hall. This is obviously after James and Paul went to the house, and this is after Gladys had Marcus set up to attack Justine. So Gladys tells Alex that he needs to pack and that they're going to be leaving tomorrow. Gladys walks into her bedroom and Mr. and Mrs. Lilly are posted up like some bouncers outside of a fucking club, and she tells Alex not to step over the salt. And there's a line of salt before the entrance of the bedroom. So the next morning, Alex gets out of bed. He looks out his window and sees a truck outside. And inside the truck is Justine and Archer. And so now we're up to speed because this is after Archer showed Justine the map and they established that Alex Lilly's house has something to do with the missing kids. So they're sitting outside. They're kind of watching the Lilly's house. They see a patrol car outside and they're contemplating if they should go up to the house or not. And just as they're trying to figure out what to do, Paul steps outside and very oddly waves them over to come inside the house. And so Justine is like, oh shit, I know him, that's Paul. So they go inside. And once they're inside, Justine steps over a line of salt. Paul attacks Justine and James attacks Archer. While Justine and Archer are fighting for their fucking lives, Alex is upstairs. He steps over the salt leading towards Gladys's room or his parents' room, and his parents go to attack him. And poor thing, he hides in his room, and Aunt Gladys is fake as fuck for nonchalantly being like, don't pass the salt. If that were me, I'd be like, don't step over the salt or else your parents are gonna try to fucking kill you, huh? So downstairs, Archer is beating up James, and he just keeps getting up. At some point, Archer throws James across the room. James and Archer end up tussling. They fall into the attic where Archer sees the missing kids. Meanwhile, Justine is trying to fight off Paul. She ends up grabbing his service weapon and shooting and killing him. So then she goes to help Archer and shoots and kills James. Archer is in the basement looking amongst the missing children, trying to find Matthew, but instead he finds Aunt Gladys and is immediately put under her influence. At this point, Justine is in the kitchen and she's very shaken up that she's just killed Paul, and Archer comes in clearly possessed by Gladys, and Gladys is there, and Archer starts to strangle Justine. Meanwhile, Alex is upstairs. He runs into his parents' bedroom. He grabs Aunt Gladys's wig and grabs the branch with the children's hair, grabs a piece of Gladys's hair, wraps it around the branch. He pricks his finger, rubs his blood on the branch, and breaks it. Gladys is downstairs and very clearly feels a disturbance in the fucking force, and she's like, oh shit. So she runs out of there. The kids from the basement run upstairs, and they are chasing Gladys through the fucking neighborhood. Like literally, like Gladys is running through people's homes. The kids are sprinting, fucking parkouring through people's homes, like destroying property left to right. They're running through houses, they're running through backyards, and it's very clearly a public event. And when they catch her, they literally rip her to pieces. So back at the Lily's residence, Alex's parents are still trying to attack him, and Archer is still trying to attack Justine, but once Gladys dies, they stop. So Archer, without a word, leaves the house and starts searching for Matthew, and it's not difficult to find him. He just has to follow the path of destruction that the children have left behind, chasing Gladys. He finds Matthew and all the other missing kids, and they're kind of just standing around whatever's left of Gladys, and he takes Matthew and then they leave. Justine is still at the house. She goes upstairs to find Alex, and he's holding his parents. When I tell you, the ending just had me so fucked up. Alex's parents never fully recovered, and they're now living in a fucking facility, and Alex is living in a different town with a new aunt. All the kids were reunited with their parents, and they just now started talking again this year, as the narrator tells us. Mind you, this is an incident that's being recalled from 2 years ago. So 2 years into the present, some of the kids just now started back talking. Before I went to see Weapons in theaters, I was avoiding the trailer like the plague. And I think just based off of the little bits and pieces that I did see, like some of the imagery from the trailer, I was expecting to be scared fucking shitless. But instead, I left the theater feeling thoroughly disturbed. I felt sad and disturbed because it's like, damn, Alex finally got his parents back, but then immediately lost them again because they weren't the same. Same thing with the parents who lost their children. They got their kids back, but they didn't actually get their kids back, at least not how they were before Gladys got involved. And I can only assume the longer that somebody is under Gladys's influence, the more they lose themselves. Because if you think about it, Alex's parents and the kids, they were under her influence for a minute. You know, it's been like a month and some change. And you have Archer, who is under Gladys's influence for maybe a few minutes, and he seemed to still be himself. I do think the movie did have to grow on me a little bit. Ironically enough, by avoiding the trailers, I still managed to have some form of expectation of what to expect from the movie. So I think after watching it initially, I was like the teensiest bit disappointed because I was like, oh man, I was ready to be scared shitless. But watching it again and knowing what goes down and knowing what to expect, I have a different appreciation for it. Where it's like, it's not necessarily like terrifying. I mean, the concept itself is disturbing and terrifying, but not in a way that I would personally be up late at night just freak the fuck out about it, you know? And I did enjoy the characters. I did enjoy like bits and pieces being revealed through different characters' perspective, although it did feel like some of the characters and some of the storylines were kind of fluff. Like the whole thing with Donna. Did we need that bit with Donna? No. But did I guzzle that tea down as it was handed to me, as it was poured into my mug? Yes. I did feel very intrigued by Aunt Gladys's character because I feel like there were these moments where she felt very campy and very charming and very like bubbly and vibrant. Like her look itself was giving very much eccentric. And then we have moments with Aunt Gladys that we see mostly around Alex that felt very dark and unnerving. I think it's funny that out of everybody who had an encounter with Aunt Gladys, Alex was the one who's seen her in her most authentic self. Anybody else that did see her in her most authentic self either immediately got put under her influence or was killed. I can only assume she spared Alex from either of those options because she needed him to, like, you know, carry out her favors. One thing that I do find genuinely iconic about Aunt Gladys is that anytime she did or said something that was very clearly weird or strange, she kind of just doubled down and was like, I said what I said and I'm not explaining that shit. And nobody really fucking questioned it. The only person I feel that actually challenged her was Alex. I don't know if it was one of those things with like adults where they were too kind to say anything, where it's like, oh, strange, she's asking for a bowl of water and a touch of consumption. Okay, I'll go with it. Like, they just kind of seem to go with whatever it is that she was saying. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was her experience as well with the detectives when they were trying to investigate what the fuck happened to the missing kids. Like, if there was things that she said or did that they just kind of was like, okay. And it could be because being that Gladys is an older woman, maybe they didn't perceive her as a threat. And I do think that Gladys needed a fucking coven or something, because the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus, they may have been campy and silly and wacky as fuck, but their vitality spell worked, okay? I am curious to know if anybody else was like personally victimized by Gladys. Like, we see that she visited Justine in her bedroom for a brief moment, and at first I was like, okay, maybe that's because Justine was snooping around the Lily's home and maybe she wanted to scare the fuck out of her to prevent her from investigating any further. But then you have Archer, who was seeing Aunt Gladys in his dreams, and he wasn't doing any serious investigating at the time. Like, at least in that time, he wasn't doing any specific digging on the Lillys in their home. So I'm wondering if, like him, if any other parents in the town with missing children seen her at all. And it seems like as a town and a community, they were all impacted by 17 children going missing, right? I know the way that the movie plays out, we have very specific characters and their very specific perspectives of how everything went down. But if you really look at it, the whole town was impacted by that shit, like for real, for real. Parts of the town witnessed inexplicable shit, like Marcus running through V formation looking crazy trying to kill Justine. And then of course we have the end of the movie where the 17 missing kids are rampaging through everyone's home following Gladys. I wonder what would have happened to if a different burglar came across the Lily's home and not James. Let's say it was a burglar who didn't do drugs. You know, they just do regular burglar shit. They come in, they steal, they leave, and they use the money to spend the money. I don't fucking know. And let's say it was somebody who was sober and they seen that and came across the kids. I wonder if they would have been able to approach that with law enforcement in a way that was more productive than how James approached it, because nobody was taking him seriously. And I feel like with the mention of parasites, which they mentioned it too many times for me to think that it didn't have any correlation with the movie, I do think that it's relative to Aunt Gladys and how she acted as a parasite to anybody who was under her influence, draining them of whatever the fuck they had going on, because they didn't come back the same, okay? I could only assume she was taking something from them. She drained them of some sort of essence, okay? But yes, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope you don't have an Aunt Gladys living in your neighborhood. And if you do, hopefully she's chill as fuck and doesn't have like literally a basement full of kids. But okay, bye!